Hi guys, I'm Tara Lipinski,
And this is Todd Kapistashi.
and you're listening to Unexpecting, the podcast.
What's new?
Well, we just got back from a big trip. I got back from Paris, the Olympics, which was incredible.
What was your highlight, do you think? Well,
Okay,
I mean, you were
I have-
there to do the closing ceremonies.
Right.
Just cool, but anything else
Yeah.
before you get to that?
Well, okay. The overall highlight for me about this Olympics was that there seemed to be this buzz about the Olympics again. And obviously, as an Olympian myself and someone who cares so much about the Olympic movement, it was concerning me the last few Olympics where we talked about it a lot, where we just talked about how, are people watching? How are ratings? And the ratings were incredible. Like 42 million people are tuning in. And I felt like on social media, you saw so many people just watching the Olympics again. And I think when I was skating, the Olympics, they were big. People sat around, I mean, different because I'm old, so it wasn't social media, but you sat around the TV at night and you watched the events and you could just feel that energy again, which makes me so excited, not only for this Olympics, but for Olympics to come. Because clearly the Winter Olympics are the best.
The Winter Olympics don't have breakdancing, though, which is the
they don't.
star of
It really was. The Australian breakdancer
It's also
really
one and done, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not bringing it back.
I heard that. But that was the most exciting. Just walking this, I felt it at home when I was watching, the events and gymnastics. But when I got to Paris, just everyone on the streets, just from all over, their face painted with their country's flags. And there was just a lot of energy. At night, you would see crowds and I would be like, what's happening? And then you realize they're all at one TV, cheering and yelling. So it makes me proud and happy that people, love tuning in. And then doing the closing ceremony with Johnny was so much fun. We were back the last time we were in Tokyo for a Summer Olympics. It was an empty arena because of COVID. And then Beijing, we didn't go to Beijing because of COVID. So we did it just in the studio. This was so exciting. A sold out stadium. Tom Cruise jumps off the roof. It was so fun. So it was a great trip.
And Jimmy Fallon was part of your broadcast, which was cool.
Yeah, Jimmy Fallon. And so you're connected, like the little earbuds we wear, and you're listening to Mike and Jimmy. And it was just electric and so much fun. And being in Paris, the events, surrounding these incredible landmarks. I think that, again, look, I'm getting so excited. It's like fertility. I like Olympic nerding out and fertility nerding out are my specialties. But I think, the future Olympic Games in these cities will really take note from what Paris did and incorporating all these events into their city in the coolest way. I mean, that volleyball venue was mind-blowing with the Eiffel Tower behind it.
Well, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but LA doesn't really have the equivalent of the Eiffel Tower. So some of that might be a little hard.
I know, we were laughing a little bit because
we have the Watts Tower, which is an icon in South LA, but not quite the same.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is we were kind of laughing about that because at the closing ceremony, I mean, a lot of the French, the vibe was, are very artistic and, elevated art.
And then they cut to the Chili Peppers and Snoop.
But I loved it. I'm like, yeah, bring it here. Bring it here. I'm going to be excited to have it at home in LA. I think that will feel, I've never really experienced an Olympics at home.
Plus what the Olympics do, which is sometimes nice and sometimes not so good. Because, there were horror stories in, the Brazil Olympics where they built this infrastructure, but they did it so cheaply that it didn't really last. Like, they couldn't use a lot of those facilities after the
all
Olympics.
The bleachers breaking down.
But a lot of times, in the World Cup or the Olympics, they build stadiums for these things. And, the country or the city gets to use it, forever after that. And I think for LA, hopefully, as everyone knows about LA, the sort of road traffic transportation infrastructure is awful here. And I think they're totally revamping how the airport works. I don't know if you've seen any of the construction going on. Like, you're going to basically go far off site to the airport now when you get dropped off, and you're going to have to tram it basically to the airport, which seems like a pain in the butt, but it's probably going to be better with traffic and getting into the airport. But anyway, they're building a lot of
it's going to be interesting
public
to see.
transportation for the LA games, which we'll see if, people in LA just don't like to use public transportation for whatever reason. So we'll see if any of it sticks. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that over the next 4 years.
I know.
It's
going to be good. And then pivoting off of that from Paris, I met you in Italy. So I feel like we should do a quick, there's so much. I feel like the next few podcasts, we could probably bring up Italy stories.
Yeah.
But
Should we start with the good or the bad?
Let's start with, should we do a bad first? Well, no, it was all good.
Well, the highlight of the trip, which was like 12 days, was clearly the first the first Airbnb that we stayed in Capri.
Yeah.
And we were warned by the owners that it was going to be a hike up to the place where we stayed, but I don't think either of us sort of envisioned the heat coupled with the
they
stairs.
were having a heat wave in Italy. So it was I would check the weather. It was about 90 to 92 every day. So it was hot, guys. So hot.
And humid. It was mid-90s and like they say feels like, which I don't know what that means. I guess it's like combining with humidity, but it was like feels like 111. Like I saw that.
Yes,
a few times.
It was awful. There was like heat advisories, and we decided that it would be cool, that we would be fine to, oh my God, guys, to hike up 200 old Italian stairs.
250 stairs.
250.
Said, yeah.
Like steep climb, not like a super like low grade climb.
Like
it was
stairs built into the rock.
Like built into the rock. When we got there, and okay, I travel not light. So I had many, many suitcases. We had a total of 6 suitcases. I had 4, and then we had 2 extras. And they were like the big Rimowas. And so you give them thank God. Can you imagine you would have died if you had to take. It
wasn't possible.
It wasn't possible. They don't even I don't even know if they how that works.
It's just literally impossible. It would have taken, if I did all our bags and carried them up, it probably would have taken, I'm not exaggerating, like a half a day, maybe like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
Because it takes, with nothing, it takes like 15 to 20 minutes to walk up and then, 15 to 20 minutes to walk down. You could. I just don't think I physically could have taken a suitcase.
Well, I think you would have died.
Up.
Like 100%. At one point, you would have taken a heart attack. Like there was this thing. I don't know if we didn't talk about this, but on this into a rock was like one of those heart things. Did you see that emergency? And I was like, is that because people
people probably have died.
Can't make
there,
it. Yeah. It was guys. It was a rough climb. And when we got there, so there was a service, like a porter service that took our suitcases.
So our bags got somehow.
But there was still we had to take, heavy diaper bags and strollers and car seats. And that first hike up, I was like, what did we do?
I was saying this to friends yesterday. The only way I could get through going up in the heat was to literally mentally for like 5 minutes prepare myself and tell myself that it was like a workout. Like, hey, it's like, imagine you're hopping on the Peloton, or you're starting a workout in the gym, or you're going on a really hard run, like in LA. That's the only, because it's not, if you just went into it like, it's the end of our day and we gotta walk back up this 20-minute up steep steps in the heat, you wouldn't make it.
You wouldn't.
Mentally, I couldn't make it unless I told myself that it was a legitimate workout. And it was. I'd be drenched in sweat.
I was suffocating at points. It was you couldn't even put on certain I would have to think I was wearing nothing. I was wearing bralettes and shorts because I was I brought this pretty dress, but it will be soaked.
But you were keep in mind, you were carrying Georgie just in your
20
arms.
pounds, and then
she's heavy, carrying her, and she squirms, so that makes it a little harder.
It was heavy.
So it almost I did it once, and I almost preferred just carrying, and I had heavy bags and the stroller backpack on my back, so I was carrying a lot of weight. But carrying Georgie was almost more difficult.
Yeah,
it's
a thing. I feel
a
proud
real
of myself.
Thing you couldn't drop.
But you know what? I love stuff like that.
Well, we
should
say though that we were warned, and I don't want to rag on the owners of that.
They were amazing.
Airbnb, they were so nice. They told us it was going to be hard, and we're kind of joking. it was hard.
It was hard.
But it was also you get up there and it's an amazing place and the view is great.
Yeah, the view is quite wonderful. People have been asking for the link because it's so pretty.
Yeah, and you could jump in the pool when you were done with your climb, which I did a couple times because I couldn't.
Yeah.
I was gonna die.
Yeah, it was intense. It was just so, in general, even in town, it was just having a crazy heat wave.
Yeah.
And I feel like for Todd, we should tie it back. If you remember the old podcast about Hot Guy Faraday, he showed up to Italy with, a whole new, because he really, as we talk about, he doesn't really I buy him his clothes and he doesn't,
Well, when you were in Paris, you said like, hey, I know you have 0 pairs of shorts and all your shirts are like flannels and like heavy things.
Yeah, they're like heavy.
You need, Todd, you're an adult, buy some summer clothes.
Right. So he
the
came
day
with
before,
Hot Guy Faraday clothes.
The day before I went to Venice, what's Abbot Kinney, and I went to Faraday and somewhere else.
But you're wearing a Hot Guy Faraday.
Yeah, this is the only shirt, long sleeve dress shirt that I bought because they're so expensive. But I bought a couple t-shirts and this, and then 2 pairs of shorts.
Yeah. I just was like laughing, thinking about like when you were like walking out in these clothes, just sweating, drenched in your new Hot Guy Faraday clothes. But
yeah, it's like I remember trying them on and like, I'm
Yeah.
in Venice and Abbot Kinney in the mirror looking like really good and thinking about what I'm going to be in Capri. I'm going to look like a Hot Guy Faraday, just not hot.
Yeah, Chris shirt.
A different kind of hot.
No, you were like soaking, sweat stains.
And I looked so bad the entire trip.
It was fine. But anyways, I feel like we have more Italy stories.
Hijinks. Yeah.
To go through, but that one is like memorable for me. I'll never forget it.
And now a quick word from our sponsors.
There's a lot that comes along with trying to conceive and pregnancy. Believe me, the trying to conceive phase for Todd and I turned our life upside down. For me, I dealt with a lot of anxiety of the unknown, and that's why I'm such a huge supporter of Ritual. It was and is my personal multivitamin of choice, and it took the guessing and worry out of selecting a prenatal. I knew what I needed. I wanted to deliver those key nutrients my body needed during pregnancy. So speaking of key nutrients, since that was most important to me, Ritual's Essential for Women's Prenatal covers all the bases. I did a lot of my own research before deciding on a prenatal, and I loved that it had methylated folate, omega-3 DHA for brain and early vision development, and vitamin D, as well as nature-identical choline. And the best part is it's rigorously tested, and that was a huge must for me. Not only Clean Label Project certified, but Essential Prenatal also earned their Purity Award. So it's important to know what you're putting into your body, especially during your pregnancy journey. And with Ritual's dedication to traceable science and sourcing, you always will. See for yourself with 25% off your first month for a limited time at ritual.com/Tara. Now we're back home. I feel like we should fill people in on our surrogacy journey,
Yeah, what's
our
the
second
latest?
one. So guys, this feels real. Feels like it's
happening.
It's happening.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Barring a positive drug test.
If you guys were listening, we've had some bumps in the road trying to find the second surrogate. But we came across someone who I just really connected with, similar to the way that I felt when I talked to Michaela on that first FaceTime call. And it was just instant. Like we're texting about random things in life and what did you do this weekend? And she's just the sweetest and so dedicated. I think, she has her own children, but I think a family member had at one point maybe needed surrogacy, and that was what kind of prompted her into thinking about surrogacy. But then she did do one surrogacy journey and now, was open to another with us. And I just think it really feels personally like the right match. And so there's all these steps you go through. So, you have to send over the medical records to your doctor and then they have to clear those. And we've hit some bumps in the road there, but this time we check mark there, medical records cleared. And then she came and flew in to California about a week ago to do the in-person with Dr. Beck medical screening. And that's where we've had two, phone calls like, it's not going to work out. So I was definitely just like, it may not work. This is just going to get through this appointment. But it seems that we passed pretty well so far. But I do think there's again, and I think anyone listening who's curious about surrogacy, or how the journey works, or even IVF and preparing for transfers, there's always bumps in the road. There's a little polyp no big deal. It's very surface, but that needs to, she has to have a hysteroscopy to remove that. So we're looking for a doctor for where she lives. She's out of state. So we have to get through that. And then we're going to do a mock cycle just to check that all the medicine she takes will line up with a 5-day embryo, because her last surrogacy journey was a 3-day embryo. Anyways, I'm getting into the weeds on all the medical stuff, but there's still some, hurdles to jump. And then it just comes down to, doing the transfer, which I think will come pretty soon. I think what's interesting, I'm just thinking this now, I feel like the podcast is where I'm going to share everything and not really on social media, and just keep this, because I feel, again, like my little circle of our podcast listeners, it feels so supportive and good and safe. And again, it's like when we did the podcast downstairs, it's like no one's listening. We're just like, right now I'm just with you in the living room talking. So you don't really feel like you're announcing something. But I feel like the announcing of this makes me very nervous. So I feel like I'm just going to keep it to the podcast people. I don't want to put it on social media quite yet, which is just, it's interesting, I think, to think about, right? Because, I should feel comfortable enough that if like a failure happens or something doesn't go right, that I don't feel shame or anything about it. And I don't think I really feel shame, but it's just such that leap of putting it out there and what happens if it doesn't work. And I think, you separate yourself from it a little bit, but now that it's coming up, I feel the nerves.
Well, I was thinking about it today that in my head, for some reason, I'm like, oh, like just like Michaela, it was pretty easy and it's going to work. And then we're going to have a kid in 9 months. And I reminded myself today that like it could just not work. And we could have to go to our next embryo and then start to get a little more nervous. And what if that one fails? I started to think about failure again, which isn't fun.
It isn't fun. And yeah, I mean, there's only a 60% chance that it works. And you just hope that, it goes smoothly.
And you actually got to meet her this past week, right?
Yeah, when she came in for her appointment, I met her. I mean, again, that's what's interesting, right? We had 2 other surrogates that we've like had these FaceTimes with. They've gone and they've been to our clinic and saw our doctor, but this is different. I don't know why. It just feels like this is the one. And immediately our connection, and we're texting back and forth, and she's like, I'm coming, for the appointment. I have a couple hours before. And so we met at a cafe and I brought Georgie, and we just got to talk, and get to know each other a little bit and see each other in person. And it was just really nice. And I just think I immediately feel comfortable. I think I get so many questions of like, how do you know you're going to feel okay with this, random person that you don't know carrying your potential child? And it really is. I mean, I guess it could be like anything, right? Like dating. How do you know? But you just get this safer feeling that, because I can tell she probably can sense that I worry about a lot of things. And she is great at already like, don't worry. Or you know what I mean? I feel like I feel very comfortable if I want to be like, hey, like, how is this going to go? And she'll be like, let's do it however makes us all comfortable. Yeah. So,
yeah, I think we found a good one.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. It's going to be really nerve-wracking though, going through, and I haven't thought about it because I think you just push it off, but it is getting closer. Like, I don't know. What would you say? Maybe Yeeks, it could be 2 months from now and we're transferring another embryo.
Less than that, maybe, right?
Yeah.
A month and a half.
Crazy. And we're just like telling you guys all this.
Well, also, have you thought about sometimes, Georgie, obviously it's fucking amazing, but like sometimes it creeps into my head that there's going to be like like we're starting over with like remembering those first few months with Georgie. They're obviously hard.
Yeah.
And awesome. But now we also have Georgie, and we're going to have, which every parent who has 2 kids goes through that. But like, I'm so used to just having Georgie that I'm recalibrating of like, oh man, there's going to be like a newborn potentially here very soon.
See, this is where our minds are different. I am just like so nervous about the journey again, like I just want it to go okay. And my mind gets ahead of me and starts down this little rat
but
race.
we are going to have 2 kids.
I hope
potentially,
hopefully. And you just don't know.
Are you ready for that?
I am so ready for that. What I'm scared about, again, and I think this is like, I read this really cool, it's an Instagram meme, so.
I read an Instagram meme. I did a deep dive into this Instagram meme.
Well, you know what I mean? I feel like I was going to say as if it was like in some profound,
in like the Harvard Business Journal
book. No, but it was something about grief and trauma.
A meme?
Yeah. Well, wait, is it not a meme? What would it be? Just a post.
Yeah.
Okay, not a meme. But God, I'm getting old, aren't I?
Yeah.
Calling things memes. But it was just about how you unfortunately sometimes expect the worst case scenario. And when you get to that, you think ahead at, most people probably don't think about those things and they're positive and they just, take that next step where I think a lot of times when you've experienced so much failure, your mind just goes to all the what ifs, all the failure. And I'm getting most nervous again because like my neurotic at-home pregnancy testing that I did personally, and then even with Michaela, like that was one of the most stressful weeks of my life. Is really, and I mean, we had.
Have you prepped our new surrogate on any of that yet, or are you
so
waiting?
Yeah, so it was funny at lunch. I was like, "Did you
test 8 to 12 times a day?
Did you test
every
at home?
On day 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10?"
I like lightly, gently put it out there. But you know what I like about her and why we're a match? She's like, actually, I did. Let me pull up the photos. She not having gone through what we had, just as that person, right? Like kind of just type A, took photos, documented it, knew what it was so she could see it progressing every day. So I was like, yeah, she has no idea that, we're going to get a little
more intense than that, sister.
We're going to be doing it again. But yeah, I feel like that period, I was at nationals with Michaela going through it. And I don't know if you remember, I mean, it was just one of the harder times because it was looking not good again, even though it was. And so my mind was going to worst case scenario. And I lost 10 pounds within like a matter of 10 days. And I'm just like, okay, this time I've got to just take it step by step. But I do know that transfer to, I don't know if we should definitely take, I want to be brave enough to just take everyone on this journey with me, but it is still scary. But I think I can do it. But I feel like we should do a podcast during that week and you will just see like a different unhinged. They're going to be like, is she okay?
We won't be talking about like funny walking upstairs Capri stories.
No, I'll probably have pregnancy photos, like pregnancy test photos, be like putting them to the camera, asking you guys to rate them. Tell me, how dark do you think the line is? But anyways, we're moving forward. So sometimes you just get on the train and it's moving and you just got to do it.
Here we go. And we'll take you on the journey with us.
Yeah. All right. Well, till next time.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Unexpecting the podcast. Please subscribe, leave a review, and follow Unexpecting Pod on Instagram for info about upcoming weekly episode releases.